Welcome to a deep dive into something, well, a little creepy, right?
Yeah.
Robots and AI,
And what happens when
when they don't really need us humans anymore,
yeah, exactly.
which is, I mean, who knows how far off that is, but
Yeah.
it's definitely something to think about now.
Oh, absolutely. And to be honest, I think we're already seeing it in a lot of ways.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Little bits and pieces creeping in.
Yeah, and we've got some interesting stuff to dig into today from you guys. We've got
Yeah.
excerpts from two different essays.
Okay.
One called What Happens When Robots Don't Need Humans Anymore? And then another one, Ethical Considerations of Robots Replacing Humans.
Yeah.
So,
So really getting into it.
yeah, we're going to look at, the economics of it, like how it would affect the world economy,
Right.
Psychologically, how it affects us as humans, our identity even.
Yeah.
And then ethically, is it even right or is it wrong?
Right. Big question.
Yeah, huge questions.
I mean, just to kick us off, one of the sources brought up this prediction from McKinsey, and it said that by 2055,
Okay.
50%
Wow.
of global economic activity could be automated.
50%. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a huge chunk.
It is.
And they're not just talking about like factory jobs, right?
No.
That's what we always think of with robots.
Well, it used to be, I think, right? Like
Right.
that was the
classic image.
the image, the car manufacturing plant, whatever. But
Yeah.
now it's so much more.
Yeah.
They're talking about data processing, service industries, like all kinds of things that
Yeah, it really makes you think like what's left for us to do,
what is left?
Yeah, and so thinking about that McKinsey prediction, they actually, and I thought this was interesting, they were looking at specific tasks within jobs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not entire jobs being eliminated necessarily.
Right. So I think that's important. It's not like poof, overnight your job is gone. It's
Right.
more like
Okay, well, what does that look like though? Give me an example. What kind of?
sure. So let's take a paralegal, for example.
So much of what they do is research, right?
Right.
Case law, organizing documents, all that kind of stuff that can easily be, programmed into.
Automated.
Yeah, automated.
Yeah.
But the strategy, the interacting with clients,
Right.
the judgment calls,
Yeah.
that's where the human element is still so,
Still so important.
yeah.
But even if it's just, tasks within jobs, it seems like it would still lead to a lot of job losses in certain areas.
Oh, yeah.
So what happens to those people? Like, what do we as a society do to support them?
Well, I think we have to think about things like retraining,
Okay.
really robust retraining programs.
Right.
And then also the social safety nets, making sure that people have,
That people are taken care of.
that they can transition
Yeah.
into this new world, whatever that may be.
Yeah. One of the ideas that's been talked about a lot, and I think both of these sources touched on it, is this idea of universal basic income,
Right.
UBI.
UBI. Yeah, it's interesting. So for anyone who doesn't know, that's basically the idea that everyone gets paid a certain amount
Mm-hmm.
from the government,
Right.
regardless of whether you have a job or not. So
Regardless.
do you think that could be a potential solution to this like mass unemployment problem?
It's an idea, that's for sure.
Right.
I mean, there are people who are really pushing for it, and there are so many different different models of what it could look like,
Right.
whether it replaces all of our current welfare programs or if it's like just supplemental.
Right. An extra thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's, I mean, it seems like a really controversial idea, like I've heard people say,
Oh, yeah, it is.
that it would disincentivize people to work.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why would I work if I'm just getting paid anyway? And that it's just too expensive,
Right, and then there's the whole other side of it where people are like,
Yeah.
is this really getting at the root of the problem?
Yeah.
Inequality and all that.
Right. Or are you just putting a Band-Aid on the problem?
Exactly. And then what happens to inflation if everybody suddenly has all this extra money?
Right. So even with UBI, there are,
Lots of things to consider.
a lot of complexities,
Yeah.
a lot of potential downsides.
Right.
It's not an easy, simple solution.
No easy answers.
And it's something we really need to talk about
Yeah.
as a society.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this whole question of what is work?
Right.
What is work going to look like in the future?
Yeah.
We really need to have these conversations.
And speaking of work, I mean, it's not just about the money, right?
No, definitely not.
Like our jobs give us a sense of who we are.
Totally.
It's our identity. It's how we connect with other people. It's
purpose.
it's purpose. So what happens to our sense of self when that's taken away,
Yeah.
even partially?
It's a big question, and sociologists are like all over this, trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
I think it was Dawn Norris who did this study.
Okay.
Found a link between job loss
Mm-hmm.
and increased anxiety and depression.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not just because suddenly your income is gone.
Right. It's deeper than that.
Yeah, it's that loss of identity
Right.
and your connections to people.
Yeah. I mean, it makes you think, like, how much of our self-worth is really tied to what we do?
Totally.
And so if a robot comes along and can do it better and faster and cheaper,
Mm.
does that make us less valuable as humans?
Right. Does it? It's a good question.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, maybe it's a chance to redefine how we think about ourselves. Like, do we have to be so tied to our productivity to feel like we matter?
Right, yeah.
Are there other ways to find meaning and purpose?
I mean, it's almost like this whole robot thing is forcing us
To really think about what it means to be human.
Yeah, what does it mean to be
Yeah,
human?
yeah.
Yeah, and maybe that's not such a bad thing, right?
Maybe not.
Yeah,
I mean, who knows?
to be continued.
Yeah, we'll see.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's almost like, I don't know, we need to redefine what work even means, right?
Yeah, yeah. Like, what if instead of robots taking over,
Yeah.
they're actually freeing us?
Oh, I like that.
From the boring stuff, the repetitive tasks,
Right.
all that, so we can focus on the really human stuff.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah. So, like, imagine no more data entry,
Okay, I'm liking this.
no more assembly lines, none of that stuff that just, like, drains us.
Mm-hmm.
But instead, we can
Mm.
spend our time building relationships, caring for each other, being creative,
Right.
solving problems that need intuition and empathy.
Yeah, things robots can't do.
Right, exactly. At least not yet.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point, like
Mm.
with current technology.
Right, right.
But it's interesting to think about how this might change, like, what we value as a society.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Like, right now we're all about productivity and efficiency
Right,
and output and all that stuff that's easily measurable.
right.
But what if those things become less important
Yeah.
because robots are taking care of it?
Yeah, what if then we start to appreciate the things that are harder to measure?
Yeah, like empathy and creativity and, community involvement.
Right, right, exactly. And actually, one of the sources talks about this idea of Ubuntu.
Oh, yeah, what is that?
It's this, I guess you'd call it a philosophy.
Okay.
It comes from Africa, and it's all about how interconnected we are.
Okay.
Like, as humans, we become more human.
Do our relationships.
Yeah, exactly. Through our relationships, through helping each other,
Yeah.
kindness, compassion,
Yeah.
all of that.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It is.
But I'm not quite getting the connection to,
To the robots.
yeah, to the robot.
Yeah, yeah. So think about it this way, right?
Okay.
If we're not careful, we could end up isolating ourselves even more
Oh, interesting.
by becoming too reliant on these machines.
Right.
So, like, imagine a world where everybody's got their robot companion.
Right.
They're getting their emotional needs met by machines.
Outsourcing our caregiving to AI.
Exactly. So what happens to human connection then?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like a paradox, right?
It is.
Like we create these incredible machines to make our lives easier, to give us more time.
Right.
But if we're not careful, we lose something really important.
Yeah, like the essence of being human.
Yeah.
That connection to each other.
It's a tough balance, right?
It is. It's like walking a tightrope.
Yeah, and that brings up another ethical question.
Okay.
This whole idea of robots as moral agents.
Right.
So can we program morality into a machine?
It's a good question.
Can a robot really understand human emotions?
Yeah, and make those kinds of judgment calls.
Right.
The ethical decisions.
Right.
I think it's important to remember that with where we are right now,
Okay.
AI doesn't have that.
Moral agency.
Yeah, that moral agency.
Okay.
They're incredibly powerful tools,
Right.
but they're not conscious,
Right.
They don't feel emotions the way we do. They don't have this inherent sense of right and wrong.
Right. So we shouldn't get caught up in the
The sci-fi.
Yeah, like robots becoming sentient beings
Exactly.
with
Yeah.
their own moral code.
They're following instructions, that's all.
Right. But I guess the danger is,
How we see them, how we treat them.
yeah, how we perceive them.
Yeah, like what happens if we start treating them as if they do have that moral agency?
Right. Like what if we start relying on them for emotional support,
Yeah.
for companionship,
Mm-hmm.
even for ethical guidance?
Right. Are we losing something
Yeah, are we?
by outsourcing those parts of our lives to machines?
It's a really interesting question, and I wonder
Mm-hmm.
if different cultures might react to this in different ways.
That's a good point, right?
Like, in some Eastern cultures,
Mm-hmm.
there's already such an emphasis on interdependence, on
Yeah.
community.
Yeah.
So do you think those cultures might be more resistant
Possibly, yeah.
to robot companions,
Yeah, because they already value that human connection so much.
Right.
And they might be better at seeing the potential downsides
Right.
of becoming overly reliant on these machines.
Right.
So yeah, they might be more likely to say, hey, robots are tools.
Right.
They're here to help us, not to replace our relationship.
It's almost like we need to have a global conversation about this.
I think we do.
Yeah, to learn from each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
As we figure out how to live in this world.
Yeah.
With these increasingly intelligent machines.
Yeah, it's not just a technology challenge, it's a societal challenge.
It is. And we need to be having these conversations everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah.
In our homes.
Yeah.
In our communities.
Yeah, on the world stage.
Yeah, on the world stage, exactly.
We need to figure this out together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've covered a lot of ground here, right?
We have.
We've talked about the economic disruption, the psychological impacts,
right,
the ethics of robot companions and
Rawr.
moral machines. I mean, it feels like we're just scratching the surface here.
It is. It really is.
It's such a complex issue.
And the thing is, we don't know what's going to happen.
Right. We can't predict the future.
Yeah. Like, how fast is this all going to happen?
Yeah.
What are the long-term consequences?
Right. But the more we talk about it,
yeah,
the more we anticipate the challenges and the opportunities,
exactly,
the better prepared we'll be.
Right. The more we can kind of like steer it in the right direction.
Right. And that brings us back to that question you posed at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
What happens when robots don't need us anymore?
Yeah. What does that world look like?
What does that world look like?
Well, I think it depends on us.
On us, yeah.
On the choices we make now.
Yeah.
Like, if we're mindful about this transition,
Okay.
if we focus on human well-being, on ethics,
Mm-hmm.
then maybe we create this world where robots free us from drudgery.
Okay.
We have more time for our passions, for connecting with each other. But if we're not careful, if we prioritize efficiency over everything else,
Right.
then we could end up in a world that's, I don't know, dehumanizing,
Yeah.
where we lose our sense of purpose or
Right.
connection
Yeah.
because we're so reliant on machines.
It's like a choose your own adventure, right?
It is kind of, yeah.
We have the power to shape this future.
Yeah, but we need to be aware of the consequences.
Yeah, for sure.
Of the choices we're making.
And it's not just about making the right choice.
No.
It's about having these conversations, challenging our assumptions.
Yeah, being willing to adapt.
And being willing to adapt, yeah.
Because it's not a one-time decision.
Right.
It's an ongoing process.
Yeah, it is, for sure.
Yeah.
It's a lot to think about.
It is. It really is. I mean...
We've talked about economic upheaval, a shift in how we define ourselves.
Right.
This ethical tightrope of robot companions, cross-cultural dialogue. It's like this robot revolution is touching everything.
It is. And I think that's what makes it so important to talk about.
Yeah.
It's not just about robots and AI in isolation.
Right.
It's how it affects literally every part of being human.
Yeah. And, as we've been talking, I keep coming back to this idea of work.
Yeah.
Like, if robots really do end up doing most of the jobs, will we even have economies
It's a good question.
as we know them today based on work and income?
Like, will we need entirely new systems?
Yeah.
A lot of people are thinking about that. Like,
Yeah.
economists, futurists, all sorts of people.
Yeah.
Some are saying we'll need something like universal basic income to
Oh, yeah.
support the people who lose their jobs. Others are saying, new kinds of work will appear.
Right.
Focused on things humans are good at.
Yeah.
Like creativity and complex problem solving.
Right. It's like we're on the edge of a whole new era.
It does feel that way.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Where the old rules just don't apply anymore.
Yeah.
It's exciting, but it's also a little scary.
Great.
Right?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, not knowing what's coming.
Yeah, I think that uncertainty is natural.
Yeah, I think so too.
We've never been here before.
No.
So there's no map, no answers.
But that's also what makes it so interesting.
It does.
Right.
It really does.
It's like, this is a pivotal moment in human history.
Yeah.
And we have the power to shape what happens next.
We do. We really do. We can use these technologies to make a better world.
Yeah.
Or
not.
Or not.
Yeah, we have a lot of decisions to make,
The good decision.
both individually and together,
Mm-hmm.
about how we want to live in this robot-powered world.
And I think it's not just about the technology. It's
Yeah.
about our values.
Right. Values that guide us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
As we develop and use these things.
It's funny. We were talking about Ubuntu earlier, and I think that's a really good guiding principle.
It is. Yeah.
This idea of interconnectedness,
Yeah.
of community.
Right.
Like, if we prioritize human well-being,
Mm-hmm.
collaboration, a shared purpose,
Yeah.
then maybe we can create a future where robots help us
Yeah.
without, taking away what makes us human.
Right, without dehumanizing us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, this has been amazing.
it has.
Thank you so much for this conversation.
Thanks for having me.
And I want to thank all of you out there for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
We hope you found it insightful, thought-provoking,
Maybe even a little inspiring.
maybe even a little inspiring. Yeah.
Yeah.
And remember, this conversation doesn't end here.
No, definitely not.
Keep questioning.
Keep exploring.
Keep those human connections strong.
Those are important.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah,
They're key to thriving in any future,
that's right.
robot-filled or otherwise.
That's right.
So, as we wrap up, we want to leave you with one final thought
Okay.
to ponder.
All right.
If robots do take over many of our jobs,
Mm.
will our future economies still be based on work and income?
Mm.
Or will we see something entirely new emerge?
Something we can't even imagine yet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's something to keep in mind
for sure.
as we navigate this rapidly changing world.
Yeah, it's changing fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks again for joining us on the Deep Dive.
Thanks, everybody.
It's almost like we need to redefine what work even means
Yeah.
in this new world with all these robots.
Totally. And you know what? Instead of thinking about it as robots taking over,
Yeah.
we think about it as robots freeing us.
Freeing us, okay?
Yeah, freeing us up from all the boring stuff,
Oh,
the repetitive tasks, all that.
Right.
So then we're free to focus on what makes us human.
Okay. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so imagine, no more data entry,
Oh, that sounds nice.
no more assembly lines, all that
Yeah.
stuff that just drains you.
Right. Right.
And instead, we can focus on building relationships,
Yeah.
taking care of each other,
Okay.
being creative, solving those problems that need intuition and empathy.
Right. Things that robots can't do.
At least not with current technology.
Right. That's a good point. Yeah. With current technology, who knows what the future holds?
Right, exactly.
But it's interesting to think about how this shift
Mm-hmm.
might change how we value things as a society.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Right now it's all about productivity,
Right.
efficiency output.
Yeah, all the stuff you can measure.
Yeah, exactly. All that measurable stuff.
Yeah, but what if that becomes less important?
Right.
Because robots are handling it.
Right. And we start to value the things that are harder to measure.
Yeah, exactly. Like empathy,
Creativity.
community engagement,
Yeah.
all that. Yeah, and, one of the sources brought up this idea of Ubuntu.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
What is that? Fill me in. I'm not familiar with that.
So it's this, it's kind of a philosophy
Okay.
from Africa.
Okay.
And it's all about interconnectedness.
Yeah.
It's about
Mhm.
how as humans.
We actually become more human
Okay.
through our relationships with each other.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, through helping each other, through kindness, compassion, all that good stuff.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
It is. It is.
I don't quite get the connection, though,
To the robots.
to the robots. Yeah.
Okay, so think about it this way.
Okay.
If we're not careful,
Mm-hmm.
we could end up isolating ourselves even more
Oh, interesting.
by becoming too reliant on these machines.
Right.
So imagine a world where, everybody's got their robot companion.
Okay. Yeah.
They're getting all their emotional needs met by these machines.
Outsourcing our caregiving to AI.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So then what happens to actual human connection?
It's like a paradox.
It is a total paradox.
We invent these amazing machines to make our lives easier.
Right, to free up our time.
Give us more time, more freedom.
Yeah, but then we might lose something even more important.
Right, yeah. Like the core of what it means to be human.
That connection. Yeah.
Yeah, to each other.
It's a tough balance.
It's a real tightrope walk.
It really is. And that brings up, another ethical question.
Okay.
This whole idea of robots as moral agents.
Right. Can a robot be moral?
Yeah. Can we program morality into a machine?
Yeah.
Can a robot truly understand human emotions?
And make ethical decisions.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, with AI right now,
Okay.
they don't have that.
Moral agency.
Yeah, they don't.
Okay.
They're really amazing tools.
Right.
Powerful tools, but they're not conscious.
Right.
They don't have emotions.
Okay.
Like we do.
Yeah.
They don't have this built-in sense of right and wrong.
So we shouldn't get too caught up in the,
The sci-fi.
the science fiction idea of robots becoming these.
Sentient beings.
Yeah.
With their own code of ethics.
Right.
It's not like that.
They're just following instructions.
Yeah.
Okay. But I guess the danger is,
How we perceive them.
how we perceive them.
Yeah. Like what if we start treating them as if they do have moral agency? Yeah, like what if we start going to them for emotional support,
Yeah,
companionship,
right.
even ethical guidance?
Are we losing something then
Yeah.
by outsourcing these parts of our lives to machines?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder, you know, if different cultures would
Yeah,
react to this in different ways.
that's a really good point.
Like in some Eastern cultures,
Yeah,
there's already this emphasis on interdependence,
right.
on community.
Yeah.
So do you think those cultures might be more resistant?
I think it's possible.
Okay.
Yeah, because they already value that human connection so much.
Right.
So they might be better at seeing the potential downsides of
Uh-huh.
relying too much on robots.
Right.
They might be more likely to say, hey, robots are tools.
Right.
They should enhance our lives,
Yeah.
not replace our relationships.
It's almost like we need to have like a global conversation
We do.
about this.
We need to be talking about this.
Yeah, to learn from each other.
Yeah, and to figure out how to live in this world.
Right.
It's changing so rapidly.
Yeah, with all these intelligent machines.
It's not just a technology challenge, it's a societal challenge.
It is. And we need to have these conversations everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah.
In our homes,
Yeah, in our schools,
in our communities,
on the world stage.
on the world stage.
We need to figure this out together.
Okay, so we've talked about
A lot.
a lot. We've talked about economic disruption,
We have.
the psychological impacts,
Yep.
the ethical dilemmas of robot companions,
Mhm.
moral machines. I mean,
Yeah.
it feels like we're just scratching the surface here.
We are just barely scratching the
Yeah,
surface.
it's such a complex issue.
It is, and we can't predict the future.
Right. We don't know how fast this is all going to happen.
What the long-term consequences are.
Right. But like you said earlier, the more we talk about it,
Yeah.
the more we think about the challenges,
Yeah.
the opportunities,
The better prepared we'll be.
better prepared we'll be. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe,
Yeah.
steer things in a slightly better direction.
And that brings us back to that first question.
Oh, okay.
What happens when robots don't need us anymore?
What does that world look like?
Yeah. What does that world look like?
I don't know, but I think it depends on us.
It depends on us.
The choices we make now,
Okay.
if we're mindful about this,
Yeah.
if we prioritize human well-being,
Okay.
ethics, all that,
Right.
then maybe we create this world where robots free us from the drudgery of life.
Yeah.
And we can focus on our passions and, connect with each other.
Yeah.
But if we're not careful, if we just prioritize efficiency and productivity above all else,
Right.
I don't know, we could end up in a really dehumanizing world where we lose our sense of purpose.
Our connection.
Our connection.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're so reliant on these machines.
It's like a choose your own adventure story, right?
It really is, yeah.
We have the power to shape this future,
We do,
Yeah.
but we got to be aware of the consequences.
the choices we make. And it's not just about making like the one right choice.
No, it's not a one-time decision.
It's about constantly,
Yeah,
reevaluating, having these conversations,
being willing to adapt.
challenging our assumptions. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a process.
It is an ongoing process,
Yeah.
for sure.
It's a lot to take in, We've talked about economies changing, how we see ourselves changing, robots as friends. Like, it's almost too much.
It is, but it shows just how big this whole robot thing really is, It's not just about the tech itself, it's how it changes, everything.
And, as we've been, I keep coming back to jobs. Like, if robots DO end up doing most jobs,
Mm-hmm.
do we even have an economy as we know it? I mean, will the whole system have to change?
That's the million-dollar question, right? Economists, futurists, they're all trying to figure that out.
So what are they saying?
Well, some say we'll need something like that universal basic income, the UBI we talked about, to help people who lose jobs to robots.
Okay, makes sense. What else?
Others think, totally new types of jobs will pop up. Stuff that needs human skills, Things robots can't do.
Like what? Give me an example.
Creativity, super complex problem solving, stuff that needs that human touch.
So it's almost like we're at the very beginning of something totally new,
It really does feel that way.
where the old rules about work, money, it all might not matter anymore.
Yeah, it's kind of exciting, but also a little scary. Right?
No
I
kidding.
mean, nobody's been here before, no roadmap, no easy answers.
But hey, maybe that's what makes it so important, right?
I think so. It's a huge turning point for humanity, and we get to help decide what happens next.
We do.
We can use this tech to make things better for everyone.
Or, make them worse.
Or yeah, totally mess things up.
So lots of decisions to make for each of us, but also as a whole planet.
For sure. And it's not just about the tech itself, but what we value. what matters to us.
It all comes back to that, doesn't it?
I think it does. And that Ubuntu idea, maybe that's a good guide as we figure this all out.
You mean about being connected?
Yeah, like seeing each other, helping each other, that human stuff.
If we do that, then maybe robots can help us without making us, us as human.
Exactly. Enhance our lives, not replace them.
Well, this has been an amazing deep dive. I've learned so much, thank you.
My pleasure.
And to everyone listening, thank you for joining us. We hope this got you thinking.
And hopefully inspired you too.
And remember, this isn't the end. Keep thinking about this stuff, keep talking about it, and most importantly, stay connected to each other. That's what'll help us thrive no matter what the future holds.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So one last thing to think about before we go. If robots DO take over a lot of jobs, will we still have economies based on, the whole work for money thing? Or will something totally new, something we can't even imagine yet, come along? Something to ponder as we move into this crazy, fast-changing world. Thanks again for joining us on The Deep Dive.
Thanks, everyone.